So Lamentations chapter 5. Remember, O Lord, what has come upon us. Look and behold our reproach. Our inheritance has been turned over to aliens, and our houses to foreigners. We have become orphans and waifs. Our mothers are like widows. We pay for the water we drink, and our wood comes at a price. They pursue at our heels. We labor and have no rest. We have given our hand to the Egyptians and the Assyrians to be satisfied with bread. Our fathers sinned and are no more, but we bear their iniquities. Servants rule over us. There is none to deliver us from their hand. We get our bread at the risk of our lives because of the sword in the wilderness. Our skin is hot as an oven because of the fever of famine. They ravished the women in Zion, the maidens in the cities of Judah. Princes were hung up by their hands, and elders were not respected. Young men ground at the millstones. Boys staggered under loads of wood. The elders have ceased gathering at the gate, the young men from their music. The joy of our heart has ceased. Our dance has turned into mourning. The crown has fallen from our head. Woe to us, for we have sinned. Because of this our heart is faint. Because of these things our eyes grow dim. Because of Mount Zion, which is desolate, with foxes walking about in it. You, O Lord, remain forever. Your throne from generation to is from generation to generation. Why do you forget us forever and forsake us for so long a time? Turn us back to you, O Lord, and we will be restored. Renew our days as of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and are very angry with us. Amen. Where do we go when we have lost everything? It's our fault, and we are found in wreck and ruin. Whether we're talking about a nation, a church, or as a people. We go to the Lord of new beginnings. To the Lord of new beginnings. So the first observation here is when you reach rock bottom, and daily life is a struggle, what then? Many will get to this place, and at that point they just give up. They stop trying, they stop believing, they stop hoping, because what's the point? We've tried many things and nothing makes it better. Nothing will ever make it better. We could be speaking as people, we could be speaking on behalf of a church, of a particular church, of a denomination. We could be speaking on behalf of a nation as a whole. The sentiment remains. We get to certain places where we have tried everything and things press heavy upon us and nothing seems to make it better. And so we say we may as well just give up. Okay, but consider Israel. Israel were God's chosen nation. Once they were under the great shepherd king, David, the man after God's own heart. They were once under the blessed son of David, under the reign of Solomon. All of his wisdom, the wisest of all of the kings of Israel, and all of the wealth that he brought to that united nation. And then they were splintered, the 10 tribes torn from the other 2 tribes. The northern kingdom warred against the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom eventually in 722 is wiped out, and finally after 136 years of warning to the south that the same will happen to you as happened to the north, they too have fallen. Jerusalem has suffered wrath and the judgment of Almighty God. She has lost literally everything. In verses 2 to 3, the possession of the land of the families of Israel is their inheritance in the Lord. And it was fastidiously guarded. It was kept within families, and now it is passed not to the next generation as it should. Now it is passed not only to others within Israel who would restore it at the year of Jubilee, but it is passed to the nations outside of Israel. There are no more fathers to redeem the land. There are no more kinsman redeemers. There are no more Boazes to intervene on behalf of Israel. In verse 4, the stuff that they took completely for granted, their water and their wood, it was just their resources. It was free. They had it in abundance, is now controlled in verse 5 by their Babylonian oppressors, who breathe down their necks, who cut them no slack. For bread, in verse 6, they have given themselves to Egypt and to the regions of their conquerors, to the Assyrians. Any steps that this nation had taken forward because of God's great outstretched hand to bring them out from captivity, any steps taken forward have been now completely reversed. Now nothing comes easy to this people. The most basic necessities of life are fought for tooth and nail. In verses 9 and 10, they describe somebody who scavenges in the wilderness at risk of their life, under the heat of the sun, whose skin is scorched, and they are in deep discomfort. But they are not describing the situations of the wilderness. They are describing the streets of the once proud and holy city, Jerusalem. Jerusalem has become like a wilderness. It is in Jerusalem that the sword has now turned against the throats of her people. Verse 14, there is nobody to follow, nobody to lead them out of this mess that they've got themselves into. There is no music in the land. There is no worship in the land. In verse 15, there's no joy in their hearts. There is no longer any dancing. Verse 16, any crown that was set upon their head is now well and truly fallen away. Here is the situation of Israel, the great nation of God. Nobody is immune from such providences, from such judgments. History will tell the story of nations that once seemed so secure, that were raised up by God and then trashed and thrown to the ground. The great empire of Rome, the wonder of the world, came to nothing. History will tell the story of how the church, or of churches, have been on the very edge of collapse because of crises and scandals. The church is not immune from the judgments of God. And the people of God, you yourselves, have lived through experiences like this. You have known times in your life where every day is a struggle. Just getting out of bed and making it to the end of the day and going to sleep again is agony for your soul. Life feels like walking through mud in blazing heat, thirsty and alone, and there is no end to it. And you will have come at times, probably, or maybe you will at times come to a position of wishing that you no longer had life. Have you ever felt that way? There are days I did not want to live. There will be other days when you do not want to live. And then there are memories. Jerusalem remembers what has been done to her daughters in verse 11. To the mothers, to the maidens alike, how they were ravished by the invading armies. She remembers her princes and her elders, who, verse 12, were hung up by their hands, publicly paraded, perhaps tortured, perhaps publicly executed, but their bodies put on display to fill the hearts of the rest of Israel with terror and fear. It's impossible to read this book and not think about October 7th. We have visual material right there within reach. You can see the footage. of how those monsters invaded the land and paraded women naked through the streets, shot babies, shot children. And of course you can say, and these things have been done in other nations too, and at other hands as well, but still they have suffered, they have experienced these unforgettable evils. There were things that were done then, there were things that were done way back in 586 that will never be forgotten. And so too for you there are incidents that are burned into your memory, burned into your mind, that at times cripple and destroy you, that you can't get past, that have a power over you that seems impossible to shake. And so what do? You've hit absolute rock bottom. Do you give up? Do you stop trying? Often we do. But even at rock bottom here, these, verse 17, who are weary of life, verse 18, who are in the ashes of hope, do what? They turn and they tell all to God. This is a prayer, verse 1. Remember, O Lord, what has come upon us. Look and behold our reproach. They lift all of it up to God. All that has been lost, look upon it, O Lord. All that we have suffered, look upon it, O Lord. All of the weariness, all of the toil, all of the tears, all of the anguish of soul, look upon it, O Lord. Here is the first step. When you say, I have no steps, there is no path that I can take. The first step is always this, to come with honesty before the Lord. Lord, my heart is breaking. Lord, I am swallowed up with grief. Lord, I wish that I did not live, but now, Lord, look upon it all. You just describe it. You explain it away to the Lord. This is what Israel is doing in this fifth and final poem and prayer. They present it all to God. Now you say, what if I've brought this on myself? This is the second question, the second point. Not only have I reached rock bottom, I've lost everything. But it's all my fault. We can never clearly and judiciously separate what really is our fault and everybody else's and nobody's fault. And you get these extremes where people look on particular cases, and on one hand you say, society is to blame. The lot that they were dealt in life is to blame. What chance did they have? And so for some people, they get to that place and they look at somebody who has made an absolute shambles of their life, and they say it's not their fault at all. Because they were born into this country, they were born into this family. These things happened to them that they had no control over. It's not their fault. The other extreme is to say, no, everything is their fault. They're lazy. They didn't take the opportunities that were presented to them. I know somebody else who was born into a situation like that, and their life is now like this. It is all their fault. And so you have these extremes in the way in which the world approaches this problem. It's everybody else's fault but the individual, and it's all the individual's fault. And the truth is presented here beautifully in a balanced way between these two extremes. So notice verse 7, what do they say? We are suffering for the sins of others. Verse 7, our fathers sinned and are no more, but we bear their iniquities. We are suffering for the sins of our fathers, and they were. God had warned generation after generation. He had sent prophet after prophet. What happened in Jerusalem is the accumulation of generational pride, idolatry, and rebellion. And that seems totally unfair. Why should they suffer for the sins of their fathers? And I thought God would not hold us accountable for the sins of our fathers. And it's true. God will not hold us morally accountable for the sins of our parents or the sins of anybody else, but only our own. Nevertheless, we do suffer the consequences of the sins of our parents. We do suffer the consequences of the sins of our nation, of the sins of our community. This is just an unavoidable reality of living in community with others. The way that they live will have an impact and bearing upon you. If you've got a dodgy king, the nation is going to suffer. If you've got a dodgy father, the family is going to suffer. And it's worth just saying here that there is a kind of justice even in this. So if a dad gambles away all of his money and the wife and the children, they go hungry, we say that's just not fair. That's the strong sense, isn't it? They didn't deserve it. There is no justice in this. But turn the situation around. Has anybody ever cried injustice if a dad stumbled upon a gold mine and the children after them inherit great wealth? Never. In fact, we would say if somebody had, come upon some great idea and made an absolute fortune, and then at the end of their life somebody said, aha, that's it, it's no longer your money because your children didn't earn it and they took it all away, we'd say that is injustice. So there is a kind of justice to corporate and to national and to generational consequences, though it is not based on personal merit and personal demerit. It's corporate, it's covenantal justice, the effects of which will play out in time but not eternity. You are not going to be judged by God because of the sins of anybody else, of your parents or of the nation. You will be judged for your own sins. You will be received into heaven on the basis of your life of faith before God, your life being found in Jesus Christ. So they're suffering for the sins of the parents. It seems unfair. There is a kind of justice in it, but nevertheless, it's not their fault, is it? And we have to say this. You need to hear this. That there is plenty about you and your situation that is not your fault. That you don't deserve. And that you didn't choose. The Bible is able to recognize all of this. It's not to say God is unjust for allowing it, but it is to say it wasn't your fault. The things your parents neglected to do for you, the things that they shouldn't have done to you, the things that happened to you as a child, the unjust treatment you've received as an adult, the betrayal of friends who've left you scarred, none of that was your fault. And it has affected you, and it will impact you. It will change the way that you think, your psychology. It will have a bearing on your life with God, but you do need to understand it. It's not your fault. There is so much that is not your fault. And that is true. At the same time, there is plenty that you have chosen. This is the other side of it that we mustn't avoid. We can recognize the past. We can say the stuff that we have no control over. We can recognize the sins of others that have a bearing upon our life, but we must never let it stop us from seeing our own faults, from seeing what we did choose, from seeing our own foolishness, from seeing our own impurity and disorder and twisted and corrupted ways before the Lord. So yes, in verse 7, they say our fathers have sinned, but we bear their iniquities, and it's a hard pill to swallow. But also, look where they have been brought to by the Lord in verse 16. The crown has fallen from our head. Woe to us, for we too have sinned. And this will always be true. So much about your life you cannot control. So much has been done to you that we wish had not been done to you, and it has changed you. But there is also so much about your life that you can control. There are decisions you did make. There are duties and obligations that you did neglect. There were privileges granted to you that you did waste. And all of this has to be held together. I am not simply the product of my own choices, but I am still responsible for every choice and opportunity that I've ever been given. Did I resign myself to choose what was easy and sinful? Or did I choose what was good and godly? These are the decisions that or the assessments that we have to make of our lives. We've got to be honest with ourselves. We might have been dealt a harsh hand, but we have made so many bad choices ourselves, and we have to own these before God. I think we can apply Jesus' wisdom from Matthew 7 across the generations to our childhood, to our culture, and to our nation. Of course it's right to say, hey, there is a speck in my parents' eye. There is a speck in my neighbor's eye. There is a speck in this culture in which I've been raised, in which my attention span is shot, in which immodesty is everywhere, and what do you expect when you brought up in an environment like this? But to behave as we do, we can say there is a speck, but what would Jesus say to us? He would say, you hypocrite. Yes, there is so much wrong about the lives of others. There is so much wrong about this nation. There is so much wrong about your childhood. But first look to the log in your own eye. You've got to stop blaming other people. God will blame them. God will hold them to account. But what you must do is examine your own heart. Remove that log from your own eye. Then you will see clearly with which to critique others. Israel suffer for the sins of their parents, but they recognize they are brought to the place of knowing that they are just as corrupted. They are just as sinful as their parents have been. And so they rightly deserve, in part, that which has come upon them. Now this is even worse, isn't it? You hit rock bottom, you're suffering communal sickness, and you brought so much of it upon yourself. What now? Is there any road left? Is there any future? Is there any hope? Yes. This too God will hear. It is all part of the prayer. Verse 1, remember, O Lord, what has come upon us. Look and behold our reproach. See how daily life is a struggle. See how we are in agony. See how those who have been raised up over us mock us and make our lives misery. See also, verse 7, our father's sins and how we are suffering because of them. But also I want you to see, O Lord, verse 16, that we too have sinned. We take all of it to God in prayer. My life is a shambles. I'm not moving forward. Some of it is my fault. Some of it is not my fault. But Lord, would you look upon it all? The nation doesn't give up. They bring it all to God. We are to lift our lives, our failures and our successes, the situation in which we find ourselves, the secret thoughts of our hearts and minds, all of it to the Lord. Why? Is this some kind of therapy? Is it like therapy? And in a sense, it kind of is. Like just to begin to externalize and get this stuff out of us is helpful. People have earthly therapists. God too is a heavenly therapist, and we can tell out our souls to him. And he's not going to charge you £80 an hour. I'm not dissing it, by the way. It's fine. There are earthly therapists, but he ain't going to charge you. He's not on the clock. He doesn't have a mercenary spirit. He is there to hear all of your woes, all of your complaints, all of your shame. Get it all out before God, the great therapist. But he is so much more than a therapist. You will be helped by unburdening yourself in prayer, perhaps with the help of others, perhaps with the help of the church. You'll be helped by that. But he is so much better than a therapist. When you pray as these people pray, you are praying thirdly and finally to the Lord of new beginnings. This is the astonishing hope of the scriptures, but especially the astonishing hope of this dark material. No matter how final, dire, desperate, helpless we seem to be in, the position we seem to be in, we are never without help. They had lost everything. They were in pain, they were in sin, but they're praying still. Why? Why are they praying? Verse 19. Because the Lord still reigns. You, O Lord, remain forever. Your throne from generation to generation. No matter what we do to ourselves and to others, no matter how deep the hole is that we have dug, no matter how devastating and final the cost, here is the beautiful, most glorious news. You might destroy your own life. You might destroy the life of another. You might destroy the life of your community. You might destroy the life of your nation. Do you know what you can never destroy? You can never destroy the life of God. They had ruined God's dwelling place on earth. They had ruined themselves as the temple of God on earth, but they could not touch God. God remains forever, from generation to generation. The one in whom all things exist, the one on whom all things depend, but he depends upon none. And even under his justice and chastisement and judgments, he remains the God he always was and always will be, compassionate, faithful to forgive, merciful to the sons of men, and with power, not just to create a world, but with the power to recreate the world, the power to rebuild a nation, the power to restore and rebuild a church, to restore and rebuild the lives of his people. Now that doesn't mean you can throw God a bone and he'll snap his fingers and make everything okay. This is the mistake that many people make. They think that God is there like a beggar waiting for them. And they come with one pathetic prayer and nothing changes, and then they say, it didn't work for me. God is not there waiting that he might snap his fingers at your behest and make your life wonderful. Verse 20, it might seem, why do you forget us forever, and why do you forsake us for so long a time? Even though they have come to this realization, even though they have humbled themselves before God, even though they have prayed before God, it still seems like he has forgotten and forsaken themselves forever. Don't misunderstand me. God is reigning on his throne. That does not mean that you glance a little look to him, you pay him a compliment, and then your life is going to be amazing. It also doesn't mean that you can come with obnoxious presumption, as though God danced to the beat of your drum. In verse 22, what do they say? Unless you have utterly rejected us and are very angry with us. But it ends on this sobering note of realism. But what are the people saying? It may be that it is his will to leave us where we are, and we are, at least for now, we are ready to accept that. Why would God allow the people to continue in suffering as they are and bring them to this place where they are ready to say, but maybe you have rejected us forever? I say this because he prizes humility more than anything else he could give. There is no greater gift that God can give to you than humility. And if that means leaving your life hanging in the balance, then he will do it. For there is a greater inheritance to be received from a posture of humility than from a life filled with material blessings and physical health. So it doesn't mean you can throw him a bone and he'll snap his fingers and everything's going to be great. It certainly doesn't mean you come with obnoxious presumption. God, you must do this. No. What it does mean is this. When we are at ground zero, when our lives have ground to a halt, where daily life is a struggle, and it is our fault, and we have no recourse, we have no resources, we have no place to go, there is some place to go, and there is some place to begin again, and it is in the Lord, who is the Lord of new beginnings. Where do we go? We go to the one, notice in verse 21, who is able to turn us back to himself. Turn us back to you, O Lord, and we will be restored. Renew our days of old. We go to the one who can take the crooked will, who can take the poisoned heart, and he can straighten the will, and he can cleanse the heart. We go to the one who can restore every fortune, though every fortune has been lost. We don't go with presumption. We don't go thinking it will happen overnight, but we go to the one who can do it. So often I've heard and I've been tempted to think, the Lord can do nothing with this heart of stone. The Lord can do nothing with this chaos of failure and foolishness and frailty. But here are the questions, right? Can he who installed the stars of heaven not put light within your soul? Can he who freed the slaves of Egypt and returned the captives of Babylon not break the chains of your life? Can the God who conquered death not resurrect to life and glory? Can God who made the heavens and the earth and is making all things new in his Son not remake and rebuild your life? Of course he can. Will God in many particulars? I don't know. But can he? There is no limit to what God can do for you, no matter where you have come to. No matter how powerless you are, no matter how much it is your fault, no matter how far you have gone, no matter how deep you have dug, no matter how darkened your life has become, there is no limit to what God will do for those who cast themselves upon him. And so where do you start? You start wherever you are. You offer up your heart to God. You lay all before him as we have been describing, and you say, now take my heart and make it true. Now take my life and make it whole. And you begin one step at a time, not choosing what is easy, not choosing the old habits, but choosing what is good, and you never stop. You go on this course, on this journey with the Lord, and what you find will blow you away in time. The possibilities, the potential of life with God are literally endless. The endless, infinite, almighty God can do endless, infinite, almighty things for you. Wherever you are today, everything can be made new with the Lord. He made the world. He saved from Egypt. He took the Persian king Cyrus and he used him to send his people from Babylon with a blank check to rebuild his temple in Israel. He raised his son from the grave. He took Paul, murderer of the Christians, and made him the most known, the most memorable of all the apostles. He took Peter, who had betrayed him, and he restored him, and he used him to lead his church. He can do all things for you. All things for you. All things for this nation. All things for his church in our day. We can be at rock bottom. It can all be our fault. But as we offer our lives, he is able to make the crooked straight. He is able to restore what is lost. And so what will it be? What will it be? You can lie down, you can give up on life, you can continue as you always have, or you can begin again in the Lord of new beginnings. Turn us back to you, O Lord, and we will be restored. Renew our days as of old. Amen.